Hi, we're Quentin Curious Volumes. My name is James. It's Friday in October 2024. I'm going to do a Friday Reads. I will also point out that in the Washington Post book club newsletter today, there's a little piece about an auction. It's not an auction, it's a rare book dealer who is selling a first edition of The Raven and Other Poems by Edgar Allan Poe for a cool $12,500. So if if you're in the market for that, I think the words are all the same if you just read it on the internet. But yeah, and also in other Washington Post news, they've decided not to endorse anyone for president for the first time in 40 years. Um, so I guess if you were waiting for the Washington Post endorsement to decide who to vote for and you're lost and at sea, send me a private message, send me an email. I've put my Voxer and my email address in the notes below. Um, Hit me up. I'll let you know. I'll let you know who to vote for. Um, and or like read literally any other article in the Washington Post. It'll give you a pretty good idea of who they're leaning towards. So, yeah. What did I read in the last week? Well, I made some progress on Sodom and Gomorrah by Marcel Proust, Volume 4 of In Search of Lost Time. I gotta say, it might be the most, at least the passages that I'm in. I'm about halfway through, a little more than halfway through. It's probably the most entertaining. Can I call it entertaining? It's pretty good. I've been enjoying it more, certainly more than I enjoyed much of the previous volume, Guermont Way. There's a fair amount of humor, or at least the humor it's connecting with me. Not all of it, but okay, so our protagonist, he's kind of still having this thing with Albertine, and I think they actually smooch each other a little bit. It's kind of awkwardly described where she like tries to part his lips with her tongue. It's a little too much information. He keeps running across Baron de Charlus, and now every time Charlus does something, the narrator is like, now he must have done this because nature accidentally made him a man when he's really a woman, or something like something. He's got invert goggles on when it comes to Baron de Charlus, and he's like, who else is gay? Is Albertine? Is Albertine my beloved Albertine? Is she a lesbian? And then gets very jealous about her talking to women, and then some violinist who was in a previous one of the first volumes. He comes back and turns out he's maybe having a fling with Charlotte. It's okay. Suddenly, everyone, as Nirvana said, everyone is gay. So that's what's going on in this one. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of etymology. If you dig etymology, there's a character Brichot. I think he was in a previous one as well. The section I'm in now is, you will find this hard to believe, a dinner party with some aristocrats, and this guy Brichot is there, and he goes on for pages about how people have the wrong idea about certain kinds of etymology, and he's setting everyone right. And there's a couple of times where the narrator is like, I really wanted to get Brichot to talk more about etymology. It's like, I'm sure everyone else there is really hoping that this guy will keep banging on about, well, you see, a lot of place names come from types of trees, for example. Did you know? And then he just goes out. It's pretty good stuff. Also, there are a couple of, I guess, I think they're maybe you call them chambermaids. They work at the hotel at Baalbek. That's right, he's back at Baalbek, the seaside resort in Normandy. And they take kind of a liking to him, but they also like to make fun of him while he's eating croissants. So some of the dialogue while they're roasting our little rich boy while he's eating croissants are pretty good stuff. Let's see what else. What else might I find that would amuse you? Yes. So a lot of people in this book are disappointed that other people don't know what they think they should know. Dr. Cotard, assumes that everyone knows how important a doctor he is, and the Charles is upset that some people aren't as impressed by certain types of aristocracy as he thinks they should. He says, Monsieur de Charles indeed was to learn in the course of the evening that his host had only the most superficial notions about the most illustrious ducal families. Yeah, so there you go. We'll learn plenty about those ducal families. Yeah, so doing pretty good on that. I am still listening to Sonic Life by Thurston Moore, the memoir of the Sonic Youth guitar player. He's still telling us about pretty much every show he ever saw when he was 19 years old in the East Village. It's going on. He has met Kim Gordon. They haven't like smooched or anything yet, but I guess that's probably coming up. You can look forward to that. He's mentioned Lee Ronaldo in he and Lee Ronaldo's bands before they got together. They were on the same bill and they had some kind of awkward exchange about who was going to play first, which is a big deal. If you're in an unpopular band, are you going to play before the other one? I don't know. Maybe we'll get more about Lee Ronaldo. Has Lee Ronaldo written a book? I'll bet it's pretty good. I know he's written some poetry. I saw a performance of Lee Ronaldo at the NYU Student Union. Lee Ronaldo and a guy who was a drum. What was his name? I'll never remember it. Anyway, it was kind of a duo improvised noise performance with poetry interspersed in it. Anyway, if you were there, let me know in the comments. What else? So I did read. I finished it this morning. The Vegetarian by Nobel laureate Han Kang, and the morning that the prize was announced, I was sitting here watching it on my telephone. I said, Han Kang, let's see if there's anything available in Libby, and I was able to borrow The Vegetarian before anyone else did. So I've had it for 2 weeks. I finally finished it. Now I can go back. It's gone back to Libby. It's someone else's problem. Let me tell you, it's incredibly boring. There's a section. Okay, let's see. There's 3 sections to this. It's a very short book. It's like 180 pages, and I think there's like 3 sort of equally sized sections, in each of which a person gives their experience relating to a woman who has decided to become a vegetarian, or at least that's how it starts out. So the first section, a husband, his wife has decided to become a vegetarian. Or she doesn't even really say that she's become a vegetarian. She just says she won't eat meat. And she throws out all the meat in the house and she won't prepare any meat. It makes everyone ridiculously upset. I think it's not even at all realistic. And the character of her husband is kind of like a cartoon of a bad conventional businessman husband who doesn't understand his wife. She barely comes across as a character at all. We learn almost nothing about her. She seems to have really no personality other than not wanting to eat meat and not wearing a bra, which is very upsetting to him. And then the section ends with a passage which everyone who reads it will remember, of them going to a gathering at their in-laws where a bunch of meat and seafood is prepared, and everyone's upset that she won't eat any of it. And her father, this woman's father, tries to force some into her mouth, force a piece of meat into her mouth, and she pushes everyone away and slashes her wrist. And it's very dramatic, but really boring. And and the second section, for me, it was the one that was most interesting because I really wanted to see where this was going. It actually had some kind of tension to it, some mystery. It was told from the standpoint of the titular vegetarian character's brother-in-law, so the character's sister's husband. And this man is kind of a failed video artist. I don't know if he's failed. He's just not very successful at it. But it's what he does. He doesn't have a day job or anything, it seems, and he gets inspired by the thought that this woman who so he was there when she slashed her wrist and he brought her to the hospital. But his wife had told her something about a mark on the sister, and like a birthmark. He calls it a Mongolian mark, which was a new phrase to me. But a birthmark on her buttock, and this obsesses him. So he just wants to see it. Fortunately for him, in addition to not wanting to eat meat, she's also decided that she doesn't like wearing clothes anymore. So he goes over there just to like sort of over to her new apartment after she's been released from the hospital. His wife says, you should drop in on my sister, see if she's doing okay. So he's like, okay, I will. He goes in, she doesn't have the door locked. He walks in and she's just hanging out naked. And so she puts on some clothes and she says, I just don't. I prefer not to. Anyway, so he asks her if he can make a video of her nude with flowers painted all over her. And she's like, yeah, because she doesn't care she has no personality. Her entire thing is, she just seems to have like been drained of personality because she had a dream which made her not want to eat meat anymore. We don't really know what this dream is. We get kind of snippets of it in the beginning, but then they stop. Anyway, so she's still in the second part. She's still eating things. She's eating fruit and like ice cream and things like that. But she won't eat any meat or eggs or anything. But that really doesn't come up much. It's that seems to be in this very fragile mental state. Um, but so he makes this film and then he gets a further idea. He just like has his own sort of dream of her body covered in flowers and a man also covered in flowers sort of embracing her. And he gets a young acquaintance of his, another artist, and to come over and be painted the same way, and for them to embrace, and he tries to encourage them to have sex. Kind of awkward, and the guy's like, "This is weird. I'm not into this anymore," and which reasonable, totally understandable. So he leaves, and his sister-in-law is like, "Well, now what are you gonna do?" And he says, "Well, how about if I painted myself and we did it?" And look, hey, it turns out I'm spoiling the entirety of The Vegetarian. They go back to her apartment. He paints himself and films them. I guess he films them having sex. I think that's what happens. It's so boring that and then they fall asleep, and and the brother-in-law's wife, the vegetarian sister, she comes over, discovers them, and of course it's a whole big thing because wives, and the vegetarian goes out on the balcony, and the wife is like, well, you both belong in a mental institution, and he tries to throw himself off the side of the building, but I don't know, the house, or the EMTs, they come over, they restrain him. Both of them go to a mental institution. We really never hear from the husband again. And then the third section is from the standpoint of the sister. So the vegetarian sister, she's not even a vegetarian at this point because it kind of takes a leap forward in time. She's been in a mental institution. She really doesn't even eat. She seems to want to become a tree. She wants to spend most of her time standing on her head with her hands on the ground as if they're roots, and she's hoping that she will grow flowers out of her crotch. This is the vegetarian speaking, and she doesn't want to eat anything, and she's losing muscle mass. her stomach acid is eating the inside of her uh, digestive tract. So she's very close to dying from starvation slash the anorexia, and she won't talk hardly at all. Um, and this is just a very long, boring section where she goes. The sister goes and visits her sister, and nothing happens. And then they're like, "We're gonna send her to another hospital." And she says, "Okay." And they're like, "We're gonna feed her through a tube in her nose." And she's like, "She's not gonna like that." And they're like, "Well, we're doing it." And they say, "Well, you should get out of here because we're gonna stick a tube up her nose." And she says, "Well, she's not gonna like. She doesn't like it." And they're like, "You got to get out of here." And she's like, "I'm not getting out of here." And they're like, "Get out of here." And she's like, "Getting out." It's so boring. It's even more boring than hearing me talk about. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Look, vegetarian, not. I don't know what even it's about. It's not about a vegetarian. It's about a person who goes insane and tries to starve themselves to death. Doesn't happen at the end. No, no, nothing. It just stops. It just stops. Does she get to the other hospital? No, nothing. It just ends. It doesn't end. It stops. It cuts off. No. So, not crazy about it. Not crazy about it, my friends. Um, and what am I reading next? I'm gonna try and finish this in the next week. I'll tell you about it. And I don't know if I'm gonna finish Sonic Life in the next week, but we'll see how that goes. Remember, next month, starting on Friday, we're gonna be doing Chekhovember, Anton Chekhov in the month of November. Me and Greg from Another Bibliophile reads, and Alan at Big Hard Books and Classics. Gonna be a good time. We're gonna read two plays and three stories over the course of the month, so not a very onerous syllabus, I guess you could call it. Yeah, join us for that. I hope you are reading something good. Have you read The Vegetarian? Have you read anything else by Han Kang? Are you starting to lose faith in the Swedish Academy? Did you have any? I don't know. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.